All right, so Blackmagic just released one of the probably most requested features that a lot of their users and even some of their detractors have been asking for, and that's autofocus for the Pixis 6K, which is what we're recording on right now. Let's talk about it. Okay, so unless you've been kind of under a rock, the last week Blackmagic released a beta for the autofocus for their Pixis 6K. And in kind of like typical Blackmagic fashion, they said they just jumped out of nowhere. Like, they're very interesting in how they kind of give updates. They're very kind of hush-hush about it, and then it'll just drop with like very little press and sometimes just bad communication, which if you're a Blackmagic lover like myself, it's kind of like become a charm of them, but honestly for most people it's probably pretty frustrating. And so last week actually I was on the way to a shoot. You might be able to see it kind of over here on the screen right here, a worship video that I did for my church that I'm actually really excited for. I'm doing a lot of BTS for a couple weeks, so I'm excited to share that with you guys in a couple weeks. But I'm on my way to this giant shoot for this worship video that we're doing for my church, and I open up my YouTube. I'm driving to the shoot, and the first video I see on my YouTube is a pretty popular YouTuber, and the title goes, Blackmagic release autofocus for the Pixis 6K. And I'm like, no way, like no shot. There's no way that's the truth. The day of this giant shoot I'm doing, 8 cameras, 3 of them Pixis's, they released the autofocus, and of course I do the thing that probably most Blackmagic users do. I went to their Instagram to look to see if that was true, and guess what? They posted nothing about it. So I was a little skeptical, but I watched the video, did a little research, and yes, they did. They released a beta for the Pixis 6K to have autofocus. I was actually kind of tempted to update the Pixis for the shoot to try and use it for the shoot, but I figured that was way safer to not do that, and it just wasn't a good idea. And so I'm actually just gonna throw some B-roll of that shoot over right now, because I'm actually just like really proud of it. I want you guys to see it. And again, got some really cool content coming up for that really soon, and I'm like uber excited to share this project with you guys, and not just the project but the BTS. Because honestly, I'm not really a gear guy. Like, I am a gear guy because I love filmmaking, and I've been doing it for so long. I know a lot about gear, but I just don't really enjoy like gear content, especially nowadays, because it's so much of just like people being like fanboys of one brand and one thing, and they're trying to convince you of the one thing. And I'll be honest, I'm just not really like a fan of that type of content. I don't consume that content, so I definitely don't want to make that content. But every once in a while, there is some gear like stuff I want to talk about as it relates to like filmmaking, not being a consumer, but like actually filmmaking and what it means for maybe filmmakers or the industry, or just, I don't know, just things that are for fun. And this is definitely one of those things in my wheelhouse, because I have been a Blackmagic user for about 5, almost 6 years now. I've owned the Pockets, I still own my Ursa, and I own the Pixis 6K, and I love it. And of course, like most Blackmagic users, the one thing that I would have loved for years and years and years, as I've seen the industry move to a more, every company having an autofocus, is like, man, it would be nice to have autofocus. I am kind of a traditionalist, not like I'm trying to be rebellious or anything, but I grew up on a Canon 7D, so I'm really like comfortable with doing manual focus and doing that's kind of something I'm very comfortable with. But there's definitely some situations where there's no doubt about it, it'd be nice to have autofocus on the Pixis and the body that I'm using. Even stuff like this. Not that I think the Pixis is a great camera for these type of videos, like talking head type of videos, but sometimes it is helpful. And so when they released it, like most Blackmagic users, I was really excited to test it out, give it a little go, and see how it goes. And listen, I'm sure there's tons of videos already out there about this. I feel like I actually haven't seen a lot of the big YouTubers make any content about this, but I've definitely seen a lot of this, like kind of mid-size, the smaller YouTubers start to talk about this topic, and I think it's awesome. But listen, there's a lot of probably better people that are out there that can talk about all the things about this update and what it means for the future of the industry, yada, yada, yada. Again, and that's not the content that I particularly want to make, or really care to make, or care to honestly consume. So whatever, there's plenty of content out there for you to watch if that's what you're into. The one thing I was really curious about and kind of wanted to like test for myself, and decided, why not, I'll test it here on camera with you guys, is I do have the Pixis 6K L-mount camera, but I actually don't own any L-mount lenses. I know it's kind of strange, but I've been an EF user since really the beginning. Even for a brief stint in like 10 years ago when I was using Sony, I had definitely a lot of Sony glass, but also kept almost all of my EF lenses and had an adapter even back then when I was using Sony, like back in like 2016, 2017. But I've been an EF user forever. I still have a lot of EF lenses. I did, when I bought the Pixis, start to think about being a little bit more future-proofing and going, listen, clearly the industry is going towards an L-mount, what do they call it? L-mount alliance or something like that. And Blackmagic seems to be in that. So I figured, listen, there is the EF camera, the EF mounted Pixis, but I actually decided after doing research to go with the L mount, but I did immediately buy the L mount, the EF to L mount adapter. And I've pretty much been using that since day one of owning this camera. I still, like I said, don't own any L series lenses. I can rent them or borrow them whenever I need them. But I would say for the year and a half that I've owned the Pixis, I pretty much have shot 95% of the stuff I've shot on an EF lens. And so, again, never really an issue, never even thought anything about it, but I did think like, oh, I wonder with this adapter that I have and this camera, I wonder how well the autofocus is going to convert using this adapter, especially seeing how this is a beta update. And I was curious of like, oh, I could see that the EF to L mount adapter connection may not be as strong as just going straight to the native L mount and an L mount lens. So I figured let's test it out and see. And I will tell you, after testing this thing out for about 5 minutes, right before I hit recorded, and then I'm doing this with you, I'm kind of watching the screen up here. It's doing a great job. It's doing a really good job, and I'm like pretty impressed with the consistency and the speed and the ability that it has to stay with me. Again, not that I'm doing a ton right now, I'm just sitting here talking, but right now I do have the face tracking on, and I'm watching the blue box on the screen. And again, it's doing a great job in staying with me, even though again, I'm using a Sigma 24-70 lens on the camera. I'm using an EF to L mount adapter. I'll drop that in the link to that in the description if you want to know which one I use. I love this adapter because again, it adapts my lenses, but it also has an ND ring on there that I can use. And so it's really great. I don't have to put any ND on the front of my lens, like a screw-on ND. I sometimes will use like a drop-in one, but I use this one that's rear mounted on the adapter itself, and I love it. And so I was really hoping that like, yeah, I wonder if I can continue to use my EF lenses with this autofocus update. And by looking at this, I would go, I think so. It looks great. It's doing a good job. I will say, like most people are probably already saying, this is a beta. And with most betas, you kind of have to like, just be wary. Like, again, I didn't install this for the update, for the shoot, because I was like, yeah, I've done that before and I've almost always come to regret it. So one of the biggest shoots of the year I've had so far wasn't going to do that. And so, yeah, I didn't want to do that. But again, knowing that it's a beta, things can happen. So far, the update's been great on my camera. No issues as far as like breaking the camera or anything. But still knowing that this autofocus itself is still in a beta phase, meaning that it's going to continue to get better. And from what I've seen from the Blackmagic Cinema Pocket camera, right? It's been making big iterations and leaps and bounds, and just on that platform. And now they're bringing it over here to the Pixis 6K, which I think is interesting. And so it stands to reason that within a year, this autofocus will even get better and better here on the Pixis, and I'm assuming wherever else they'll release it. So that's just kind of goes without saying, is that it is a beta, so know that. But if this is the starting point of this camera with this autofocus, it's pretty freaking good. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, look at this. Watch. Let me see. I'm up here close. It's got me, and then far in the back, still got me, and screen dark, and it's. I'm watching it, right? The blue box, it's got me locked, and it's awesome. I mean, that's great. Again, live tracking. I'll do maybe some more of the field tests. Again, I'm sure other people will do that as well too. So it is what it is. But really cool that it's doing this already, just basic live face tracking. I know it's got 4 modes. It's got the single like this kind of a single spot. It's got the continuous like locking kind of we put like a box, and then anything in that box will kind of lock onto that. Got the face tracking, and then it's got object tracking. And so it's got 4 modes. I've been watching a couple videos. It's seeming like the live face tracking is probably the weakest of the 4, which is incredible because again, it's doing a pretty good job right here. And so again, it just stands to reason that they'll continue to get better and better and better. And so I just want to jump on here and talk more specifically about the EF to L mount adapter and how that is doing, and it seems to be doing well. And I'm happy about that. I'm actually really happy about that. I guess a couple of thoughts that I have. Something that I don't think many people are talking about that is really cool is when I downloaded the update, it also has another feature that again I've really haven't heard anyone else talk about, which is awesome. Is that in the Pixus itself, it's now giving you 4 channels of audio. And the first 2 channels of audio are just the ones that are on board, the onboard camera mics. And then you can, select the other 2 channels, channels 3 and 4, for wherever else you want to be. I'm actually going from this microphone into the XLR. So my channel 3 and 4 are the XLR, but I'm still recording scratch audio, which I think is great because sometimes, and I've had this happen even recently on a shoot, sometimes I'll have like maybe an onboard shotgun mic or something like that, and it's routed through 1 and 2, and something happens, it gets disconnected, or I just forget the next shot, the next shoot or whatever, I forget to change the settings over, and so for that clip, I have no scratch audio. I have no audio from the onboard camera microphones. So it's nice to kind of have 1 and 2 just be the permanent onboard microphones that are always going, and then 3 and 4 are things that you can change and make changes to. I think that's a great update. And again, that update in and of itself, I thought is like worthy of like being celebrated, and no one's even talking about that. Obviously, again, autofocus takes the cake. We get that, no problem there. But yeah, I think that's really awesome. I think it's really great. It'll be interesting to see again what their kind of next rollout plan is for the autofocus. I guess the last thing I am really curious about when it comes to this is what other platforms they bring this to. I've heard a lot of people smarter than me and who have seemed to have some type of like in with Blackmagic talk about what cameras they can or can't bring them to. I don't know. I mean, 2 years ago, we didn't think this could happen, and here we are. So it'll be interesting. I've heard a lot of people speculate that maybe NAB this year, 2026, which is like in a month, they'll maybe make an announcement for the 12K, which I think will be really interesting. I would imagine if they do that, then it's going to go to the Ursa lines, which again would be just fascinating to see. I think the Ursas are probably one of the most underrated cinema cameras in all the industry right now. And if you add autofocus to those cameras, man, that's just, again, that would really get the conversation going in some interesting circles. And then, yeah, I would love personally, this might be getting a little greedy, but I would personally love to see them bring autofocus to some of their production line cameras as well. I work for a church. I have a whole other channel where I talk about church content and stuff like that. But we use a lot of the Blackmagic production studio cameras, the 6Ks and the 4Ks in our sanctuary, and they're great and we love them. And man, I think those cameras are pretty much perfect for that use case. If there's one thing that could be added that would just make them go over the top, is adding a little bit of autofocus magic to those production studio cameras. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if that's on the roadmap for them. But man, I think NAB, I think the Blackmagic NAB showcase they do year after year is always interesting. I think it got a little bit more interesting this year. I think people will be tuning in just to see what are the things that Blackmagic is doing. The last 2 years, they have kind of, I would say surprised us, but had some major updates that have seemingly kind of shaken the industry in certain ways, in certain corners. And so it'll be interesting to see if they do that again this year. But listen, I've gone on long enough. This is, again, much longer than I care to talk about camera gear and equipment than most days, but this is something that I actually do really care about. I think it's really interesting. It's a piece of hardware I own and I do keep up with. So yeah, them dropping autofocus, it's pretty great and it's awesome and I'm excited for it. And so if you are too, man, drop down in the comments what you're excited about, what you're hoping to see other platforms that autofocus comes to. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Again, stay tuned, especially if you're into filmmaking, and especially if you're one person of church and faith creating. Man, lock in these next couple of weeks. I've got probably about 3 or 4 different BTS videos I'm really excited about, going through recording a live worship experience. I rented a Aperture Infinimat 20 by 20. And I can't wait to show you guys the footage. Can't wait to show you guys the BTS. I searched high and low for people talking about the Infinimat 2020 on YouTube and couldn't find it. So I'm going to make some content specifically about that. So if you're into that, whether you're just into filmmaking or about faith or just, I don't know, you're just into gear, all those type of things, then you're in the right place. My name is George Coltrane. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Peace.